evolution as a concept was actually banned teaching in Nazi Germany because there was a different brand of evolution that they wanted to use, much closer to Lamarckian evolution. You know what? It's been a while since we've done a questions for atheists video, and by a little while, I mean the last time we did it was 100 questions, and technically it was also just 50 questions because they were worded so terribly poorly. But we're gonna go ahead and check out a couple more of those after the fan art section. First, we have one from Lilith Bastet. Said, still learning to use Procreate. Well, thank you very much, Lilith. Keep on pushing on learning how to use Procreate. The next one we have is from The Eyes Follow You. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this gibberish under here because at least 3 letters of it don't exist in the English alphabet. But it says NFT coin. Thought it would be funny. I don't know how many coins people are going to make of me. There's a lot of coins. A lot of freaking coins. The last one we have here is from Giuni Hatsune. Goodness, it's been a while since I've posted here, but this lovely piece is of Bunny Girl Suris. You can thank Pernia for this one. Also, now I kind of wish I put Yu-Gi-Oh cards instead. Why would you wish you would put Yu-Gi-Oh cards instead? I do. I play both. I play both of those games. I play Magnet Warriors in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I play what is it called? Affinity, various forms in Magic. Probably makes me a terrible person, but who knows? As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future episode, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the actual video itself. Okay? Okay.
A while back, I was in a discussion with an atheist online.
Okay.
I asked him some questions. The first one I asked him was, are you an animal? And he said that he was, and so was I, and did I have a problem with that? I do.
So, why would you have a problem with the idea that we're animals? Like, the definition of an animal is what? Just an organic eukaryote? I'm fairly certain that's all it is. In fact, actually, let's very quickly look up animal on the page that I'm looking up Bunny Girl Suris on. Multicellular eukaryotic organisms. Those are animals. Multicellular eukaryotic organisms that happen to be in the biological kingdom Animalia. With few exceptions, animals consume organic material, breathe oxygen, and are able to move and reproduce via fucking. That sounds like people. That sounds exactly like people. And also dogs. And also cats. And also snails. So because Dogma says that humans are magically more so to mere animals. Look, no, the only exception is not me evolving from cats. The exception is that slimes produce asexually. I mean, slimes can fuck, but like, that's not how they reproduce. That's just how they hydrate. Anyways, continue.
But, going with your idea that you're an animal, I have a question for some of you atheists and evolutionists, especially...
Sure, I'm free to answer.
Especially the atheists, maybe. If you're an animal, here's the questions I have.
Sure.
Is killing animals wrong?
It depends on context. Are you doing it for sport and just for fun? In which case, in my opinion, no. Are you doing it because you need sustenance? Then in which case, my option is it's perfectly fine. Are you doing it because it's self-defense? Are you going to be gored by a deer or another person because they're also animals? Then no, it's not good. Or if it's self-defense, then yeah, you can fight back. You can protect yourself. I don't find the conversation just, is it okay to kill, when there's no context, no nuance? I have to add that for you. Is it okay to kill an animal in X, Y, or Z circumstance? Yes. Is it okay to kill them in A, B, C? No. You fill in the blanks on those yourself.
I mean, we kill animals all the time to eat.
Okay, and? It feels like you should be having that conversation with a vegan, not an atheist. Like, I'm an atheist and not a vegan, so, eh?
Well, if we're an animal too...
Yeah?
Brings up some slippery slopes, doesn't it? Just a slippery slope.
No, not really. Is it okay for an animal to kill another animal for food? Well, if they're a omnivore or a carnivore, then no, not really, because that is part of their diet. It's how their dietary systems are built. It's a thing that they do to survive. The alternative is them dying off themselves. If the alternative is one thing dying or the other, then at least you have a choice here. Alec Jones argument, I'll eat my neighbors! Jesus. And it doesn't really raise slippery slopes. Now, the question that I end up, the interesting question for me in situations like this is like, how do people feel about bug and insect protein? For me, I find the idea of eating insects gross, but at the same time, I eat shrimp, and shrimp are just water bugs. Really, there's not much changing here for me. But that's, again, this feels like a question that should be aimed at a vegan, not an atheist. Not all atheists are vegans.
Cats are believed to kill other animals, sometimes purely for fun.
Cool. Cats also don't have the ability to weigh morals. We do. We have the ability to reason because we are more than sentient, we are sapient. Sentience is the ability to think for yourself. Sapience is the ability to be self-aware.
Do you advocate here and now the total extinction of cats?
No, because that would be stupid.
If not, what about Nazis? They killed many, and not for fun, but for what they claimed was a good reason.
So the difference here, killing a Nazi in this particular case would be, generally speaking, a form of self-defense. Somebody is a Nazi, you happen to be a Jew, their main prerogative is to kill you. There is an argument that can be made for self-defense. That cat can't kill you. The most that cat can do is cough a hairball up and inconvenience you. That's about it. Pappy says, what the hell did I walk in on? So the dude's video is called 5 Questions for Atheists, and somehow he seems to be asking questions for vegans, not atheists. And as I am not a vegan, I'm having a weird time answering these.
So then are you saying that they were justified?
No. What? How would it be? How would it be justified for the Nazis to kill people? How does that make any sense? That doesn't make any sense. Cats are justified when they kill things because cats do not have the ability to reason. They cannot be held accountable for things that they do. Nazis are people. They are sentient. They are also sapient. They have the ability to be held accountable. It is within their moral paradigm to weigh human life in various ways. They can be held to account. A cat can't. I as usual, I walked into this video blind, and I'm finding it very strange that I'm having to answer the differences between a cat and a Nazi. I'm very confused as to why this is the vibe.
Question number 2.
Okay.
There are different species of canine.
Yep.
Wolves are much more strong in every area than, say, Chihuahuas.
Okay.
So according to you, which ethnicity of human is the strongest overall?
Category error. We specifically bred Chihuahuas. We bred into canine familiaris specifically to create breeds of animal that are not adapted for the wild, that are adapted for us as pets. We don't do that with people. Congratulations, you argued something Nazi, something cats, and now you've accidentally fallen into which one of us is the Übermensch? Which one of us is the Jew? Which one deserves it? Like, no, that is really stupid. We're sitting in a category error, my guy. We don't breed people the same way we breed Chihuahuas. So we don't have that ability categorically.
You may divert by claiming each has their strengths and weaknesses, and certain ethnicities are more specialized in certain locations.
Right, which is a argument that could be made if we were in the category of various breeds of wolf. We're not in the category of various breeds of wolf. You're in a category error, my guy. You said, I think the Republicans want to breed stupidity. That's different. Yeah, that's not how ethnicities work. Again, we're in a category error.
So tell me, within the United States, which ethnicity is more suitable, or the favored race, as Charles Darwin put it?
Okay, so you understand that Charles Darwin is not who we base all of evolution off of, right? He laid a lot of foundational work, that is true, but the actual scientific study, the field of evolution, the actual scientific study and field of evolution has broadened well past, fucking Charles. I don't care what Charles said. I don't have to. I care what current science says. I can grant that Charles made a lot of interesting points, and I can grant that he laid a lot of the foundational work for evolution, but I can't say that he's the be-all, end-all. Just like I can grant that Friedrich Nietzsche wrote a shit ton of very incredibly important philosophical works while accepting the fact that he is partially responsible for the Nazis engaging in eugenics, because he created the idea of the Übermensch. That idea was seated in Nietzsche's mind, on top of the other ideas in philosophy he had about nihilism. Nietzsche wrote a lot about nihilism and fatalism, and those works are very good to study if you're learning philosophy. But he also wrote shit about the Übermensch, which literally led to the argument, well, how do we create the Übermensch? How do we create the perfect man? Oh, let's go ahead and do eugenics, and let's go ahead and cull the unwanteds out of the population. You can accept that a person brought a lot to a particular field and also subtracted a good bit of it, a bit from it too. What this guy's trying to do is go, see, evolutionist, you're no better than the average Nazi. But you are, because you're not as dumb as bricks.
This is all according to your idea.
No, it's not.
Question number 3.
Well, the first two sucked. Let's see how the third one goes.
Current belief regarding the universe is that it is spreading out.
Yep.
The Bible repeatedly states that it is stretching out or has been stretched out.
Yeah, that's a difference. In the Bible, it says God stretched out the heavens. Current scientific research is that we actually have a redshift expansion. One of these implies that a dude up in the sky took a blanket that happened to have stars in it and did the equivalent of fluffing a pillow with it. The other is that we've actually looked in a telescope and seen that motion, without things inhibiting it, tends to not stop.
If the Bible was not given by inspiration of God, how did ancient man know this?
It's not that ancient man knew this, it's that their rhetoric implied it. Also, broken clocks. Even if I accept that that literally meant universal expansion is happening, we still have the issue of broken clocks can sometimes be right twice a day. Once if they're military.
Question 4.
Okay.
How did the Bible get it right that there are
springs of the sea?
What the fuck was that edit? What the fuck was that edit?
4. How did the Bible get it right that there are
springs of the sea?
Can somebody explain to me how this man just got taken over by a 4Kids anime dub? Can someone please explain to me how this man just became an early 90s anime dub, potentially done by Ocean Group, or also a straight to VHS release? Dear God. Anyways.
When this was not discovered until 1965.
So, Job, hast thou entered the springs of the sea? Hast thou walked in the search of the depth? So, question. If we know that springs exist in lakes, and we can find that out pretty easily by going to the bottom of certain lakes, does it not logically follow that a big lake, like the ocean, it's just more water, potentially has springs as well? Wouldn't that only make sense? This is me granting your premise. If I grant your premise, I find that it's not really impressive.
With the advent of deep sea vehicles.
Okay. Yeah, you're doing the thing because this is what happens when somebody gets a whole bunch of gotcha questions handed to him by his pastor, and then he repeats them without thinking about the logical consequences of the question itself. Aside from a bunch of questions basically ending up in, look at you, don't you look very Nazi today? He's also got a question that can be answered literally by, if we can infer that this little body of water has a spring in it, can't we also infer that a large body of water might also have a spring in it? You're also citing Job, by the way. Can I talk about another scientific revelation in Job real quick? First of all, if we're talking about Job, can we talk about how Job literally talks about a flat earth with 4 corners? Can we talk about that? How there are pillars that hold up this giant disk of a world, apparently? If we want to talk about the scientific findings in Job, then let's go ahead and talk about the, quote, science in Job.
Question number 5.
Okay. This is his final question. Somehow he's gone 2 minutes into a 5-minute video, and he's on the 5th question already. I'm curious what the last 3 minutes are going to be.
Animals often force other animals into sex.
Don't make this point. No, he's not doing this. He's not doing this. Is he gonna say, look at you, atheist, aren't you a rapist? Please tell me this is not what's gonna happen.
We do not kill or punish these acts. Please explain why, if Darwinian evolution is true, why one person raping another is wrong.
We as humans have the ability to understand consent. Most animals do not have the same capacities or tools or social structures where the idea of consent is considered. Because animals do not have the same type of moral cognition as we do as human beings, if we were to punish an animal for forcing itself onto another animal, it likely would not understand why it's being punished. It would understand potentially, if you did it at the exact right time, that it shouldn't do the thing that led to it being punished, but it's not going to be able to understand the why. It can get as far as, you didn't like that, but it can't get much farther. We as humans can go several steps further with our moral reasoning. Why is it bad to force yourself on someone? Well, because they didn't want you to, and if the same thing were to happen to you, you generally wouldn't like that. And if you would, then an argument can be made that instead of doing unto others as you would want done to you, which is the golden rule of the Bible, we can instead use a much more important rule, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. If somebody does not want to be assaulted, then you can simply assume that if they have not told you they want it, they probably don't want it. This level of reasoning is something that human beings have. We have the ability to empathize with people. We have the ability to put ourselves in their shoes. We have the ability, even if we don't have the cognition available for that. Let's say that you've got an antisocial personality disorder or of some variety, sociopathy. Even without the tools to do that organically, you can still use reason to go, I don't like it when people punch me. Maybe other people don't like that as well. And if I do like it, maybe I should ask for that. And if somebody isn't asking for that, they probably don't want that. This is all part of moral reasoning. This is something humans can do with one another. We are a social species. The things that we do on other people have long-lasting effects on them. With animals, on the other hand, while those same effects may be able to be felt, the ability to reason further is not. We don't generally punish animals in the same way, especially if it's happening in the wild, because forcing animals, especially ones that are not tamed, ones that are not domesticated, to comport with social norms doesn't really work. There's an entire process of socializing an animal before you can get it to operate within normal human parameters of socialization. Generally speaking, most humans don't have this problem because we're all humans. We all have, for the most part, an equal ability to interact with each other on a social level.
If we are simply animals.
Again, what he's trying to do is assume that animals are subhuman, but realistically, humans are sub-animal. And I'm not saying that as in all animals have more of a hierarchy over humans. What I'm meaning is we have what are called nested hierarchies. All humans are animals for the same reason all dogs are animals. We all share that hierarchy of animal. But that hierarchy goes further. There's a type of animal called a mammal, and we happen to be mammals. And there's a type of mammal called an ape, and we happen to be apes. And there's a type of ape called Homo sapien sapien, and that's what we happen to be. Our ability to reason is not a thing that makes us above other species in some way that when I say you're an animal, I'm somehow demeaning you into. We simply categorically are in the same family as them. That's it. And there are several animals in that family that routinely do things like assault each other, kill each other for food, etc. But that doesn't make human beings somehow special in this regard. We're as special as we think ourselves to be, but that's about as far as it goes.
Your myth of evolution has caused a lot of problems and has been...
Wait, we're moving from 5 questions into accusations? Oh boy, goody, I'm better at these.
The excuse of many criminals, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Nazis, I think Mao Zedong.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is it evolution that called Mao Zedong to do the things that he did? Is it evolution that caused the Nazis to engage in eugenics? Because eugenics is what happens when you have a misinterpretation of evolution. the idea that you can just be breeding in these better traits, or that you can even categorically mark what would be better traits for several people, doesn't really work the same way it would on different animal breeds. And when you do breed for certain traits in animals, there are always drawbacks you end up creating, like the inbreeding we see in several dogs that cause them to die before the 10-year mark. Evolution as a concept was actually banned teaching in Nazi Germany because there was a different brand of evolution that they wanted to use, much closer to Lamarckian evolution, not Darwinian evolution. But if you want to point the blame at evolution for Jeffrey Dahmer, then I can point the blame at several parents who have either killed their kids or tossed them out on the street for being Christian. What we find in this, what would otherwise be a fallacy, is that we actually see the problem pretty plain as day. The issue is not religion, God belief, or evolution. The issue is extremism. If you are an extremist fundamental Christian, then you can find yourself harming your children because of that faith. If you are an extremist when it comes to your beliefs in evolution, you can find yourself justifying heinous acts as a result of it. Just like accepting that there are certain statistics that say things about certain races of people is one thing, but taking the approach that this means something actionable would be an extremist position. Quoting that statistic everywhere, hoping somebody will do something about those people, is also an extremist thing to do. It does not, however, mean a fact existing on its own in a vacuum is an issue. Evolution's a thing we've observed. In a vacuum, that's not an issue. People believing in evolution isn't bad. In a vacuum, that's not an issue. Somebody being an extremist and using it to justify some sort of social Darwinism, that is an issue. But again, we found ourselves to extremism. Somebody believing there's more out there than just us humans isn't an issue. Somebody believing that a God exists isn't an issue. But somebody believing that that God commands them to hate a certain people, that's an issue. We found ourselves into the extremist category. You need to understand the actual root cause of these issues instead of just blaming it willy-nilly.
Pol Pot? These are fair questions to ask. If your myth were true, then these would be great questions to apply to it.
Well, we actually have evidence that it's true. That's not the issue. The issue is that you're trying to associate things that don't really work. Again, if I say the color blue is a fabrication in a person's mind, which is true, the color blue doesn't exist. A wavelength exists. Our brains interpret as blue because we put a name on it. But if somebody takes that to mean that their entire worldview has been destroyed and they go on a rampage killing people because the color blue doesn't exist, and if that doesn't exist, nothing truly exists, so there's no repercussions for this terrible massacre they get into, that doesn't mean the belief that the color blue doesn't exist is suddenly somehow a bad belief. It doesn't suddenly create a world where we have to really, really dig into people that, no, blue really exists. We don't want you going to shoot up people. That's not how beliefs work. That's not how ontology works.
Hello.
Hi? You used a different camera this time?
If you're watching this video, it could be that you found it on your own, or it could be that someone sent it to you because they care enough that they want you to hear about the gospel.
I found it on a regular YouTube search. I was confused.
The gospel's pretty simple.
Okay.
Some verses that can be used for the gospel are like Romans 3:23. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God.
Are you just proselytizing now, or the question's over? Yeah, nobody's perfect. Next.
Romans 5:8 says, but God commendeth his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
Cool. We have a blood sacrifice added to the story. That's cool. I have a question. Is your God actually pure, or did he engage in his own genocides when he killed everybody in the flood? Is that a thing that happened? Uncertain.
Romans 6:23 says, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Because he wrote all the rules. This is just preaching. This is just preaching now. I'm not here for preaching. You had your 5 questions for atheists. I listened to the 5 questions for atheists. I responded to the 5 questions. That's it. So not everyone he let 8 commit incest. True! If the flood happened and the only people alive afterwards were Noah's tribe, who did the kids have to fuck? Because eventually you'd end up in genetic bottleneck. Isn't he plugging? Kind of, sort of. Something, something, DDLG Playground, use coupon code Suris. Something, something, dildos. There you go. Said a lot more than 8 committed incest? Well, yeah, because after a while, if 2 people do incest, and they make 2 babies, and those 2 incest babies do incest, you have double incest. That's not even getting into the heat problem of the flood. That's not getting into a lot of problems with the flood. DDLG, get the butt plug. Yep, there you go. That was a thing. I'm glad that a 5 questions for atheists ended up in, are you Nazi or are you cat? Well, look at the ears. Obviously cat. That was boring. Anyways, as always, everybody, let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you have not hit the like button on the video over on YouTube already, please consider doing so. If you haven't subscribed already, I highly recommend you do so. If you want to follow over on Twitch, then that's a thing that I would really like you doing. I like seeing people pop over into Twitch from the YouTubes. But with all that said, as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.